With everything you have on your plate, earning your degree online seems impossible. But at Grand Canyon University, we specialize in helping you fit a master's degree in education into your busy day. Your graduation team, led by your own GCU counselor, provides you with the personal support you need to succeed. Achieve your goals with a plan and team behind you. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Visit gcu.edu.
From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Larry Kudlow. We're going to Hotlanta. Hotlanta on Thursday. It's probably hot as hell down there, too. Pretty hot up here in New York. We're going to talk about the debate. We've got two all-stars, Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, and I have to read it just one more time. Author of the book, Come On, Man, The Truth About Biden's No Good, Horrible, Very Bad Presidency, and my longtime pal, Roger Stone, shrewdest political consultant ever, host of WABC Radio, The Roger Stone Show. All right, gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for doing this. So how about this? I'll start with Joe Concha. Joe, is this going to turn the race? Is the debate going to jolt the race? Is the debate going to be a game changer for the race? What do you think?
It could be an earthquake not seen since San Francisco. If Joe Biden does what many of us think he will do, which is, look, guys, there's this argument that, well, Joe Biden's going to be hopped up on something, Red Bull, Pixie Sticks, Mountain Dew, whatever, or whatever they may give him to give him some energy. That still doesn't help him with his memory. So while the State of the Union, he was loud and demonstrative and obviously passionate about whatever was written for him. Nothing's written for him this time. There's no teleprompter to go to. He's going to have to remember things, including defending his record. And if Donald Trump is smart, he goes in, let's say he's asked about immigration, for example. Trump says, all right, I want three things day one. That's resumption of border wall construction. That is remain in Mexico policy reinstated. That's the end of catch and release. I allot the remainder of my time to Joe Biden, and he can explain what remain in Mexico is, why he opposes it, and why he opposes border wall construction and embraces catch and release. Joe, the floor is yours. He does that. You put the onus on Biden and his memory, and I think you're going to have a uncle was eaten by cannibals moment, guys.
Biden might not remember the question that Trump asked.
That's a very good point.
Think about that. Roger Stone, what do you think about this whole story?
Well, Joe Biden will talk about January 6th. Trump is a convicted felon. The Republicans want to end a woman's right to abortion. Oh, and by the way, they're going to cut your Social Security. That's because he has nothing positive that he could possibly talk about. They've cooked the unemployment and the inflation records. That's numbers. That's pretty clear. We're teetering on the edge of World War III in two different theaters, the Middle East and the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We have open borders causing a crime epidemic, a fentanyl epidemic, fiscal problems in counties, cities, states across the country. He has nothing positive to say, so it'll be an all-out assault on Trump. Trump, on the other hand, can talk about record economic growth, the most robust economy in American history, including wage growth and job growth. He can talk about peace in the world because he started no new wars, but he brought troops back from the Middle East without the countries they were leaving collapsing into the hands of the enemy when they left. Trump can run a positive record of peace and prosperity. Joe Biden has nothing positive to run on. This is potentially a calamity.
You know, Joe Concha, I'd say, Roger hit on some of it. Donald Trump's got to go to the kitchen table, and he's got big advantages. And one of the things we were talking about on the TV show yesterday, and I mentioned it this morning, is a calamitous housing situation. We had the worst drop in home sales in 30 years and the highest prices on record, Joe. And, of course, mortgage rates about 7% plus. Mortgage rates are almost twice what they were under Trump. Prices are almost twice what they were under Trump. And sales are like, I don't know, half to one-third, 40% lower under Trump, higher under Trump. I mean, the American dream is out of reach. And a lot of this not only is for middle-income folks, working folks, but young people. I mean, I'd like to see Trump really pound away. Young people cannot afford to buy a home. And I think that's one reason that you see the polls showing how well Trump is doing among young people.
So I'm the youngest of three, and my brother and sister got married early, married their high school sweethearts, and they had kids very early, like 21, 22 years old. The reason why I bring this up is my nieces and nephews are now in their 20s, and none of them, they're at the house last week for Father's Day, none of them are under any illusion that they'll ever own a home, that they're going to rent for life, basically. And that never was the bar that we had in this country. So, yeah, inflation is a cruel tax on everyone. Obviously, these mortgage rates that you talked about, we have credit card debt over $1 trillion in this country. People are just basically chasing interest and paying minimum payments at this point. And obviously, we talk about crime, and Joe Biden's going to tout probably, I would imagine, if I were to predict that crime is falling in American cities. No, prosecutions are falling in American cities, and therefore that skews the numbers. And then we talked about immigration. I hope that Trump hits Biden really hard on the fact that more than 450 terrorists on the FBI terror watch list have been apprehended at the U.S. southern border since Joe Biden took office. You know how many crossed into this country during Trump's 4 years? 14, right? So this is a national security, to use Roger's word, calamity, and Trump has the record to run on, and it's very simple. You say, but my fellow Americans, were you better off under Donald Trump or better off under Joe Biden? And when people ask themselves that question, Trump wins in a landslide.
Roger, I'll get your take on it. I don't think calling Trump a convicted felon is going to work for Biden. I just don't think it's going to work. I mean, it's in the numbers. People have discounted it. His own son just became a convicted felon. I mean, I just don't think that's going to work.
I agree with you, Larry. I also think that people should recognize that Trump is going into very disadvantageous situation here. Your two moderators, Jake the Fake Tapper and Dana Bash, now you add that to Joe Biden, so it's going to be 3-on-1. Secondarily, of course, they can turn off Trump's microphone while Joe is speaking, which I think cramps Trump's debate style. People want to see the two candidates mix it up. They don't want to see canned statements by Joe in which he can't be contradicted. And then this idea that they should both be seated. Jack Kennedy and Richard Nixon were not seated in 1960. Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter were not seated in 1980. It's because Joe can't stand up for 90 minutes.
Are they seated?
Everyone knows it.
No, but
I believe they are.
I think there's Biden chose to stand up the right podium. This podium on the right side. Joe Concha, I don't know if you know the answer. Originally seated, but I think they're going to stand up behind podiums.
I think that Biden was negotiating to be seated. I don't know how that was resolved. I'll be honest. I'm not going to say something I'm not fully.
Here, I'm going to get producer Christian. Christian, look this up. Right, we'll look it up during the debate.
During the break, we'll look it up as well. But either way, I think in the end, yes, Roger's right. This is in terms of the moderators, in terms of the network, the topics that are going to be broached are going to be things that the American people really don't care about. But in the end, Trump doesn't have to play that game. He could just answer the questions that he wants asked, right? And so it's not about inflation originally. He could pivot to that. He could pivot to immigration and pivot to the fact that this is a president that is 81 years old and is aging like mayonnaise in the sun at this point. So you could go 100 different ways with this. But if Biden doesn't perform well, and you hear people like Van Jones on CNN saying, if he doesn't do well here, it's over for him, that's the Obama people speaking. And if they're saying that, then you're going to start to see the process of having Biden trying to convince him to step down and somebody replacing him. But I think even that will go even worse for Democrats, because I don't think people are going to like very much the whole communist, we're going to install a candidate without voters deciding things. So I think, this debate is everything when it comes to this campaign. It's the biggest moment, that's certainly for sure.
Jake Tapper's not so bad, Roger. I know Jake very well. I used to do it.
Sorry, Larry.
I did a Sunday show when I was in the White House. I probably did a Sunday show 50 times. Dana Bash is pretty rough trade. Jake's not. Everyone beats on Jake. I love that.
Larry, with all due respect, Jake said that I would enjoy going to prison. He's very bad.
Well,
so much for that.
He shouldn't have said that. He should, because we love Roger Stone. And anyway, but I understand. But I think in a good debate, Roger, no matter what question they ask you, you give the answer you want to give. And I think Trump's a master at that. And I think Joe Concha is right. I don't think Biden's going to be able to even finish an answer. He's not going to run out of steam because his memory, he won't have the memory. I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest problem. They're going to – here, let's step back a minute. Biden is spending the whole week up in Camp David where there's going to be briefings, okay? So they're going to try to punch numbers and arguments into his head, Roger Stone. How do you think that's going to turn out?
That will not work out well at all.
That's what I think.
And interestingly, by the way, when they tried that with Ronald Reagan in one debate, it didn't work. It's more about style and presentation and the big picture. Yeah. It's not about being able to state economic statistics and other statistics. Look, if I were the president, I would say, look, the last time I debated Joe Biden, he looked right into the camera and he told you that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, and neither he nor any member of his family had ever taken a penny from any foreign entity. He lied to you folks then. Why would you believe anything he has to say tonight? That's how I would start.
Yeah, Joe, right, too many. I mean, I think Trump should have a couple of numbers, but too many numbers. It's the big picture, right? I mean, you just want to paint a picture of prosperity, peace and prosperity. Peace and prosperity in the border. I mean, that's also the key thing. Border. What do you think, Joe?
I think that one number I cited before is very important. I don't think many people are aware that more than 400 terrorists have crossed into this country since Biden took office. And those are the ones we've caught, by the way. Like, those are the inept ones. I would imagine the more skilled ISIS-K types can get in here without detection and can melt into the population and plan whatever they're planning. So 400 versus 14, that's one. Another one is, hey, Joe, what was the inflation rate when you took office? Let him say 9% in front of the entire country again, like he said over and over again. We all know it was 1.4%. So, yeah, don't get bogged down in numbers because they don't play well on TV unless you have context. So 400 versus 14 in terms of terrorists, 9% versus 1.4% in terms of inflation, and gas up more than 50% since Trump left office. I think all those things resonate with people because those are things they feel every day or they fear in terms of terrorism.
Yeah, just a couple numbers, right? I like that.
3 or 4.
And I think, too, Roger, the American dream is out of reach for young people. It's out of reach for a lot of people. And I think the housing crisis is really something that you can throw at Biden. It's all on his watch. The American dream's gone. And women, actually, let's take a break. I want to come back. Trump is doing very well. Big New York Times story. Let you guys talk about this. Trump's doing very well among women. And one of my theories, whether this is right or wrong, many households in America, it is the woman of the house who controls the checkbook. And she's the one who understands how prices have skyrocketed and interest rates and debt and all the rest of it. Anyway, we got Joe Concha, Fox News contributor. We got Roger Stone, Roger's Show, WABC Radio, The Roger Stone Show, Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. It's a must listen to. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back about the debate.
Larry Kudlow. From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
We are talking about the debate, which could be very important, could jolt the whole race. Debate on Thursday, CNN presidential debate. That, by the way, will be simulcast on Fox Business and Fox News. And we're talking with Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, and we're talking with Roger Stone, host of WABC Radio's The Roger Stone Show. Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. I like to promo a show. They are standing at the podium. Mark Simone, our dear friend, he texted me, and I thought so. That just was worked out this week. Trump gets the last word in the debate, but they flipped a coin, and I don't even know why, but Biden wanted the right podium. And they're rehearsing up at Camp David. They got him standing up there for 90 minutes every day to get used to it. That, according to our great friend Mark Simone, Hall of Fame, often on this show. Anyway, I want to go back into some of these issue things. There's two stories this week that were very interesting to me. One is from the Wall Street Journal, Jason Riley, very smart fella, very distinguished African-American scholar and columnist. The Journal editorial pages have basically been pretty negative on Trump, although they may be coming around. But Jason's piece, Trump gets serious about black voters, okay? That's point number one. And I will say to our two panelists, you got Mr. Trump this weekend, right today, I think, giving a speech in the heart of Philadelphia at Temple University's football stadium. And you got Joe Biden retreating to Camp David, where there's, nobody except his family and the Secret Service. And the other one is Biden's lead. This is New York Times. Biden's lead with women is smaller than Trump's with men. A warning for Democrats. This is from the New York Times. Holy cow. What do you make of that, Joe Concha? Let's start with the women's story, the New York Times women's story.
Just incredible. Everything is incredible compared to 2020 when you compare those numbers. When you see that Donald Trump's leading among Hispanics. Gee, I thought illegal immigration was supposed to bring more Hispanic voters in. Nope, turns out that people who actually live here legally don't like their jobs being taken away and their social services being taken away to take care of those who shouldn't be here. So that backfired. The black vote, same deal. I mean, you had, I think it was Joe Biden got something like close to 86% of the vote among black voters in 2020. And now he's polling in the low 60s. We're talking about nearly like a 30-point drop. And in cities like Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit, and those key swing states of Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, if he's losing those sort of margins just among black voters and among suburban women, it's over if these things hold. And you say, well, there's plenty of time left before the election. Maybe Joe Biden can come back. But when you're completely deteriorating the way that he is mentally and physically, I don't see a comeback in this guy, and I don't see conditions on the ground, most importantly, changing at this point. So, everything is bad news right now, and that's why we're hearing so much about this replacement theory as far as Biden and Kamala Harris, as far as not being the ticket that people are voting on in November.
Oh, the replacement theory. The replacement theory. God, I almost forgot about it. Roger Stone, the Biden replacement theory? You think there's anything to that?
I think I may be one of the first people in the country to predict way back at the Turning Point USA conference in Palm Beach last year that Joe Biden would be replaced specifically by Michelle Obama.
Wow.
I'm not saying she's running for president. I'm not saying she wants to run for president. I'm saying that once Joe announces that he's not going to stand for re-election, releases his delegates, that a runaway convention would draft the strongest candidate I think they could nominate, and that would be Michelle Obama. I stick by my prediction. Now, that causes them an issue because Kamala Harris would normally be in line, but they buy her off with a Supreme Court nomination promise, which she's a former attorney general of California. And then they can put Gavin Newsom, a white man, on the ticket to balance the ticket. I've been predicting this for actually well over 2 years. Stick to my prediction.
Joe, he's like Simone. Simone says it every week, the replacement theory. What do you think, Joe? You heard, Roger Stone, the mean, tough, cynical, political guy. What do you think of that?
I think it's completely plausible. When you consider everything we've seen from Democrats and people saying they'll never do that, they'll never try to take Trump off the ballot in places like Colorado and Maine. Yep, they did. And they're not really going to hold off all these cases against him until an election year, will they? Yes, they did. So I could go down the line. Sure, desperate times call for desperate measures. And a Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom ticket, I could see it. I guess my question, and if I could ask Roger a question real quick, do you think that they would do better against Trump with a ticket like that or worse?
I think it's too early to say. At least they wouldn't have to run on Joe Biden's record. They would both say, "Well, that's not us. We didn't do that. We have nothing to do with that. That was Joe Biden." On the other hand, Michelle Obama has no public record, no voting record, no policy record. There's nothing to attack. This idea that a first lady is automatically qualified to be president, Hillary Clinton tried that out. They used that argument as to why she should be a U.S. Senator and Secretary of State, a disaster in both jobs. I think, look, they are growingly desperate. They're apoplectic about Joe's numbers. To go back to something Larry said, I study the polls very religiously, and I look at many of them to make sure that there's a trend. Trump's inroads among African Americans could bring him the highest vote among African Americans of a Republican presidential candidate since Richard Nixon in 1960, who got almost a third. Trump is going to break 25%, wow. And I think that breaks the back of the Democrats.
That's landslide stuff. I guess we got to get out of there. That's the music. Joe Concha, thank you. Roger Stone, thank you. Very lively, gentlemen. The Biden replacement theorem. Anyway, I'm Kudlow. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Steve Forbes on the other side.
Long Island is more exciting than ever at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel. Get ready to zoom into some serious cash with Zoom Ball every Wednesday in June. Win up to $500,000. 1 point equals 1 entry. 2 lucky winners will be drawn at the top of every hour from 1 to 5 p.m. to play Zoom Ball. Discover the excitement at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel.
If gambling is a problem for you or someone, please call the 24-hour toll-free helpline at 877-8-HOPE or text NY.